Hello, this is Ashee from Crafting with Ashee and welcome to this card making tutorial. This is the lovely card we're making today. It's a very simple, very elegant card and I like the sentiment fluttering by to say hi. Just a really beautiful card, I think. So this one uses Berry Blush and Peaceful Pine. We're going to do slightly different colour variation this time. So I've got my background piece here, which is new in colour Hydrangea U. And we're going to do a little bit of stamping. I'm going to use various stamps. And this is the die set. We're not going to use the die set. We're going to use this, which is the stamp set. And in the stamp set, you'll find there's lots of little images here, but there's also this very dinky little flower that's barely the size of a peanut. And we're going to use this to create our background. I'm going to use matching ink, which is my new ink pad. I'm going to use a lovely Hydrangea U. I'm just going to stamp, taking your time to do it, here and there. I don't want to do too many of them, it's very easy to get to not know when to stop. But I actually think that's going to be enough. So let me bring this in here. Just a very simple pattern. And remember, it always dries a bit lighter than it looks to start off with. It's the nature of a wet ink. Whenever anything's wet, it obviously looks darker than it does when it dries. Stands to reason. Right. So we've used that set. So that's our background. So let's move that aside. Next thing we're going to work on is our butterflies. And I'm going to bring in a scrap piece of basic white. This is the stamp set All Aflutter. And it's a two-step stamp, if you so wish. Where's my original gone? It amazes me sometimes how these things just have a mind of their own and just go somewhere. Ah, here it is. You can see here, you can do a two-step or you can just do one step as I've done here. You have the background and you can have the foreground as well, add the detail. So let's look for a block. I think I'm going to go for a large block. I think this is going to be, actually it might work on a diagonal. Good old diagonal. Right. Now I tend to like to take my ink to the stamp, but I found with these new ink pads they are great, but the lid is very thin. So what I found is if I take my base, and just turn it the opposite way around, I now have that double layer, so I can then get a good hold of it and give it a really nice ink up. But I just prefer to ink like this, and I can really see where my ink is going. So we're just going to press down. I smudged that. It's not very clever of me, is it? Let's try again. Because I've got so much stuff around here. I haven't inked this up very well. I've got so much stuff that I'm crafting in the size of a postage stamp. Just hold it. Let it go. Oh yeah, that's fine. Right, so let's set that aside to dry. Let's clean this up. So we want the block again. Let's put our stamp set back on the block. And then I want the sentiment flashing by to say hi. So I'm going to use my grid paper to line this up. That's why I don't do these things beforehand. I want you to see exactly how I use the set and how all the tips and tricks you can use to achieve a nice result. So I'm going to now line this up with my grid paper again, line up my sheet, line this up, down, hold, brilliant, nice and straight. Right, let's get rid of all of these bits before we have an accident. I'm going to set that aside to dry. I'm going to set that aside. And then the last thing I've got here, somewhere or other, sounds like card based, is this is the product of the month from April. And this is the Isle of Blooms die. So if you spend more than £70, every qualifying purchase of over £70, you can pick up the product of the month just for a £5. And this was the product of the month for April. It's not just available for April. If there is stocks, it continues to be available until it ends. So it will still be available. But there'll also be a new product of the month available now as well. So do check that out and have a look. So I've just taken that, and it just provides this full panel, as you can see. And you can pop out any bits if you want to. I'm not going to bother. I like it the way it is. I'm not going to use the full panel. I just want to use part of it. So all I'm going to do now is bring in my trimmer and just decide where I want. So I like this side better than that side. So I'm going to just sort of say I want to get that much of it. And then I want to make sure it's going to fit on my card. And it does. So that looks fine to me. Right, so let's stick this down to our card. And I'm just going to put a bit of glue here and there. This does pop up. All these little flowers can be popped up if you so wish. These little images, it doesn't fully cut through. It does, and you can pop them up, but I don't wish to. So you don't have to use these things the way they were intended. You can use them the way you want to use them. Always remember, it's your project. You do with it what you want to do. So as I said on this one, I'll show you. You can pop up, as you can see, all these little edges of the floors can be popped up to give it a much more 3D effect. But I don't really want to do that. I'm going to leave it just like that. And I'm going to stick it down to card base, which is barely blush. So let's do that. And this is just a standard A6 card base. That's an A4 sheet cut in half and then folded in half. Okay, and then I've got another piece for the inside here. Okay, there we go. So that's what we've got so far. So next thing I'm going to do is find my sentiment, which I think is here. And I'm just going to chop this up using my trimmer quickly. And then lastly, we'll punch out our, using the matching punch, we'll punch out our butterfly. And let's just do this quickly. So let's see. Undo. measure ever for things like this. I just do it as it comes. There we go. So let's see where we want to put this. We're going to have it somewhere here. I wanted to have a little bit of a dark head, so where is that ink pad? Sorry, everything is falling. The pile is collapsing next door to me. I'm going to just run the edge of my piece of cardstock through my ink pad so it just catches the edge like that, and it will just help it to pop from the base. And then we're just going to pop this up on some dimensionals. So let's see what I've got here. I've got some edges we can use up. Always a good thing to be able to use up your edges. It's all good dimension. I don't know how many times I've said that in my life, but it's the truth. You don't want to waste anything. Right. Let's stick this down before we lose it, and then we're just going to pop out our butterflies. So if you're enjoying this video, I'd be grateful if you could give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It is so appreciated. It really is. So I'm going to put this down here, and now we're just going to pop out our butterflies. So I just had to go and find the punch to punch out these butterflies. So I forgot to bring it up with me, so you're always going to punch from behind. So I'm just going to cut some of this out with my scissors so it's not such a big piece. Right. I'm just going to put it into the punch. And if you punch on the back, the reason for this is so you can see exactly where you're punching. And then you can get things lined up as straight as you possibly can. And I'm going to go for that. Right. And then they lock. Just slide that forward and then they lock, and that's great because then they're easy for storage. Right, so let's get rid of all these extra bits. And then we're just going to arrange our butterflies, and we're going to pop them up on some mini dimensionals, I think. So let's put one there, one there. I'm just putting one in the center so we can fluff the wings up. So let's have these fluffed up along here. And then maybe another one there. And I have them going in different directions, sort of, for a little extra interest. Right, that looks good to me. Finishing touches, I'm going to bring in some rhinestones. Sorry, my arms on the camera. And last time I used some on just here in the center of the body, and I think I'm going to do the same here. So I'm just going to put a line of 3 down the center of my butterflies. So there we have the new in colours. We've got Hydrangea U there, and here we've got Peaceful Pine. You can tell me which you prefer. I think they're both cool. I love them both. So there you go. There are those 2 cards featuring the supplies from the new Stampin' Up catalogue. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it that big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And don't forget, everything is listed and linked in the description box below. So thank you again, and until next time, enjoy being creative. Bye.